Sometimes the person who changes your life is a complete stranger standing exactly where you're about to fall apart. Claire Mitchell never imagined she would be crying alone outside St. Matthew's Medical Center on a cold October evening. But there she was, sitting on a metal bench beneath the glow of a parking lot light, trying to hold herself together while her 7-year-old daughter colored quietly beside her. The wind carried fallen leaves across the pavement, and every few minutes Claire checked her phone, hoping for a message that never came. Inside the hospital, her Aunt Rebecca rested in a private room after a sudden health scare that had shaken the entire family. Rebecca was stable, according to the doctors, but the incident had triggered something else, a gathering. Relatives from 3 different states were already making plans to fly in. Cousins she hadn't spoken to in years. Uncles who always judged her choices. Family members who never missed an opportunity to compare her life to someone else's success story. Claire lowered her head and closed her eyes. For years she had survived their criticism by telling a harmless lie. At first it seemed insignificant. Then it grew. Every holiday, every phone call, every uncomfortable conversation added another layer. She had invented a successful older brother who lived across the country. A brother who supposedly checked on her, supported her, and proved that someone from her side of the family had made it. The lie had become so detailed that even she sometimes forgot it wasn't real. Now everyone expected to meet him. Lily looked up from her coloring book. "Mom, are you okay?" Claire forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart." But she wasn't. She was terrified. Her family reunion was less than 24 hours away, and the truth was waiting to explode. A black SUV rolled slowly into the parking lot and stopped near the entrance. A tall man stepped out, wearing a charcoal coat over a business suit. He looked like someone who belonged in boardrooms, not hospital parking lots. His expression was calm but distant, the face of a man carrying responsibilities nobody else could see. He walked around the vehicle and opened the passenger door for a young boy who jumped out carrying a backpack nearly half his size. The boy laughed about something, and for a brief moment the man's serious expression softened. Claire watched without meaning to. The father and son headed toward the hospital entrance, but the boy suddenly stopped. "Dad?" he said, pointing toward Claire. The man followed his son's gaze. Their eyes met for only a second before Claire looked away, embarrassed to be caught crying in public. She expected them to continue walking. Instead, footsteps approached. "Excuse me," the man said gently. "My son wanted to make sure you were okay." Claire looked up. She had never seen him before in her life. She had no idea that within 24 hours, this stranger would become the center of the biggest lie she had ever told. And she certainly had no idea that the impossible favor she was about to ask would change everything. Claire stared at the man for a moment, surprised that a complete stranger had stopped to check on her. Before she could answer, the young boy stepped forward with an awkward but sincere smile. "My name is Noah," he said. "You looked sad." Claire felt a small laugh escape despite everything weighing on her shoulders. "Thank you, Noah. That is very kind of you." The man extended a hand. "Ethan Carter." His voice was calm and professional, but not cold. Claire shook his hand. "Claire Mitchell." For a few seconds, none of them spoke. The sounds of ambulance doors closing and distant conversations drifted across the parking lot. Ethan glanced toward the hospital entrance. "Someone you care about is inside." Claire nodded. "My aunt." Ethan seemed to understand immediately. "I am sorry." The simple response nearly made her emotional all over again. Most people try to fix problems with advice. This stranger simply acknowledged what she was feeling. Noah sat beside Lily on the bench and pointed at her coloring book. Within moments, the 2 children were chatting as if they had known each other for years. Claire watched them and felt a brief sense of calm. Then her phone buzzed. Her stomach dropped the moment she saw the message. Family group chat. Her cousin had posted a schedule for tomorrow's gathering. Underneath, it was another message. "Everyone is excited to finally meet your brother." Claire felt the blood drain from her face. Ethan noticed the sudden change. Bad news. She hesitated. Telling him would sound ridiculous. Yet something about this moment made the truth spill out. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was panic. Maybe it was because strangers sometimes felt safer than family. Have you ever told a lie that got completely out of control? Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Depends on the lie." Claire laughed nervously. "For years I told my family I had an older brother." Ethan blinked. "You do not have one." "No, and they believed you." Every single word. Ethan looked genuinely impressed. That is a very specific lie. Claire covered her face with her hands. I know. It was supposed to last one conversation. Then another. Then another. She explained everything. The judgment from relatives. The comparisons. The endless criticism. The imaginary brother who somehow became successful, dependable, and admired by everyone. When she finished, Ethan stared at her for several seconds. Then he said, "That might be the most unusual problem I have ever heard." Claire groaned. Tomorrow they expect to meet him. Then tomorrow is going to be uncomfortable. You have no idea. Another notification appeared, this time from Aunt Rebecca herself. Cannot wait to see you and your brother together tomorrow. Claire felt tears threatening again. She whispered, I do not know what to do. Ethan looked away thoughtfully. Noah and Lily were laughing nearby, completely unaware of the crisis unfolding beside them. After a long silence, a desperate idea entered Claire's mind. It was absurd, embarrassing, completely unreasonable, which was exactly why she almost kept it to herself. Almost. She swallowed hard and looked directly at Ethan. I know this is going to sound crazy, she said, but would you consider helping me tomorrow? The question hung in the air so long that Claire immediately regretted asking it. Ethan stared at her as if he was trying to determine whether she was joking. Unfortunately, she was completely serious. Help you? How? He finally asked. Claire felt her face grow warm. By pretending to be my brother. Noah stopped talking and looked up. Lily looked equally confused. Ethan blinked once, then twice. You want me to attend a family gathering and pretend to be someone I am not? Claire nodded. Just for one day. Ethan let out a slow breath and glanced toward the hospital entrance as though searching for an escape route. That is not a normal favor. I know. It is actually a very strange favor. I know that too. For a moment, Ethan looked like he might laugh. Instead, he folded his arms. Why me? Claire opened her mouth, then paused. The honest answer sounded ridiculous. Because you seem trustworthy. Ethan looked genuinely surprised. You decided that after knowing me for 10 minutes? Maybe 15. To her surprise, that earned the smallest hint of a smile. Then his expression became serious again. Claire, I am sorry. I cannot do that. Her heart sank immediately. Of course he would refuse. Why would a successful stranger spend an entire day helping someone he had just met? I understand, she said quietly. Forget I asked. Ethan nodded politely. I hope everything works out. The words were kind, but they felt like the closing of a door. A few minutes later, Ethan and Noah headed inside the hospital while Claire remained on the bench. She watched them disappear through the sliding glass doors and felt the weight of tomorrow settle heavily onto her shoulders. Lily moved closer and wrapped her small arm around her mother. Everything is going to be okay, she said. Claire smiled sadly. I hope so. The next morning arrived far too quickly. Claire barely slept. By 10 o'clock, relatives had begun arriving at Aunt Rebecca's large suburban home outside Columbus. Cars filled the driveway and lined both sides of the street. Laughter drifted through open windows. Claire sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel, while Lily sat beside her. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages asking where she was and whether her brother had arrived yet. She could not bring herself to answer. Every possible outcome ended badly. Either she continued the lie and risked exposure, or she told the truth and became the family disappointment all over again. Just as she considered driving away entirely, a black SUV slowly pulled into the driveway beside her. Claire froze. The driver's door opened. Ethan stepped out wearing dark slacks and a navy blazer. Noah climbed out from the passenger side carrying a small gift bag. Claire stared through her windshield in complete disbelief. Ethan walked to her window and tapped gently on the glass. She rolled it down. I thought you said no, she whispered. Ethan looked toward the crowded house and then back at her. I did. Claire blinked. Then why are you here? Before Ethan could answer, Noah leaned forward with an excited grin. Because I told him heroes are supposed to help people. Ethan shook his head slightly. Do not let him convince you that I had much choice. Then he looked directly at Claire. Tell me everything I need to know about my new sister. Claire stared at Ethan in disbelief as he climbed into the passenger seat of her car. For the next 15 minutes, she gave him the fastest and most stressful crash course of his life. She explained family names, birthdays, hometown details, and enough fictional history to fill an entire family scrapbook. Ethan listened carefully, asking surprisingly practical questions. What was our imaginary childhood dog named? Claire blinked. I never invented a dog. Good. Less to remember. Noah and Lily sat in the back seat, giggling as though this entire situation was the most exciting adventure they had ever experienced. By the time they reached the front door, Claire felt slightly less terrified. Slightly. The moment they stepped inside, conversation stopped. More than 20 relatives filled the house. Heads turned. Curious eyes landed on Ethan. For one terrifying second, Claire thought everything was over before it even began. Then Aunt Rebecca appeared from the living room. "There he is," she exclaimed. Before Claire could react, Rebecca crossed the room and wrapped Ethan in a warm embrace. Ethan recovered instantly. "It is good to finally see you again, Aunt Rebecca." Claire nearly dropped her purse. The delivery was so natural that even she almost believed it. Rebecca stepped back with tears in her eyes. "You look exactly how I imagined." Ethan smiled politely. "Hopefully that is a good thing." Laughter filled the room. Just like that, the tension eased. Over the next hour, Ethan somehow accomplished the impossible. He remembered names. He asked thoughtful questions. He listened more than he spoke. Relatives who normally dominated every conversation found themselves charmed by his calm confidence. Claire watched in amazement as cousin after cousin fell under his spell. At one point, Uncle Dennis pulled Ethan aside to discuss fishing. 10 minutes later, they were laughing like old friends. Even Claire could not understand how he was doing it. "Your brother is impressive," one cousin whispered. Claire forced a smile. "He always has been." The lie felt larger than ever now. The more successful Ethan became at pretending, the more guilty she felt. Yet every time she looked across the room, she saw Aunt Rebecca smiling. For the first time in years, Rebecca seemed genuinely happy. Meanwhile, Noah and Lily had become inseparable. They played board games in the family room, built elaborate pillow forts, and invented imaginary adventures that carried them from one end of the house to the other. Watching them together created a strange feeling inside Claire. Something warm. Something she had not expected. For years her world had felt small and fragile. Suddenly, there were people laughing around her. Children playing. Conversations flowing easily. For a few brief hours, everything felt like the family gathering she had always wished existed. Then trouble arrived in the form of cousin Jennifer. Unlike everyone else, Jennifer did not seem convinced. Claire noticed her watching Ethan from across the room several times. Eventually, Jennifer approached with narrowed eyes and folded arms. "Something about you seems familiar," she said. Ethan smiled politely. "I hope that is a compliment." Jennifer ignored the joke. Her gaze remained fixed on him. "Have we met before?" And for the first time all day, Ethan did not answer immediately. For a brief moment, the entire room seemed to disappear around Claire. Jennifer's question hung in the air while every worst-case scenario rushed through her mind. If Jennifer recognized Ethan, everything could unravel in seconds. Ethan remained perfectly calm. "It is possible," he said with an easy smile. "I travel quite a bit for work." Jennifer studied him carefully. "Maybe that is it." Claire silently exhaled. Then Jennifer added, "Or maybe I saw you on television." Claire's heart immediately jumped back into her throat. Ethan laughed softly. "Definitely not. I avoid cameras whenever possible." The answer came so naturally that even Jennifer seemed uncertain. After another few seconds, she shrugged. "I must be thinking of someone else." As she walked away, Claire finally breathed again. Ethan glanced at her and gave the slightest shake of his head, as if to say that was far too close. The rest of the afternoon unfolded more smoothly. Lunch was served in the backyard beneath strings of lights and colorful autumn decorations. Relatives gathered around long folding tables while children chased each other across the grass. The air smelled of barbecue and fresh apple pie. For the first time in years, Claire found herself relaxing. She noticed something else too. Ethan never tried to make himself the center of attention. Despite his confidence, he spent most of his time listening. He helped Aunt Rebecca carry drinks from the kitchen. He offered to set up extra chairs. He even volunteered to clean up after lunch. Each gesture earned him more admiration from the family. "You raised a wonderful son," one elderly relative told Rebecca. Claire nearly choked on her lemonade. Rebecca smiled proudly. "I always knew he would do well." The words hit Claire harder than she expected. She glanced at Rebecca and saw genuine happiness in her eyes. For years, Claire had wanted approval from her family. Somehow, a fictional brother had succeeded where she never could. Yet instead of feeling resentful, she felt sad. Deep down, she knew this perfect moment could not last forever. Meanwhile, Noah and Lily had completely disappeared into their own world. The children sat beneath a large maple tree, building an elaborate cardboard castle from leftover boxes. Claire watched as Noah carefully handed Lily pieces of tape while she directed construction like an architect. Their laughter carried across the yard. "They get along well," Ethan said, appearing beside her. Claire smiled. "Better than most adults here." Ethan watched the children quietly. Noah does not make friends easily. Neither does Lily. For several seconds they stood together without speaking. It felt surprisingly comfortable. Not awkward. Not forced. Just peaceful. Then Noah suddenly ran toward them. "Dad, can Lily come see my treehouse sometime?" Ethan looked at Claire before answering. "That would depend on her mother." Lily immediately joined him. "Please." Claire laughed. "You two have known each other for less than a day. Best friends can happen fast," Noah declared confidently. Ethan smiled at that. Claire noticed the expression and realized it transformed his entire face. For the first time, she saw something beyond the polished businessman and calm problem solver. She saw a father who loved his son deeply, and somehow that made him seem far more real. Then the back door opened, and Aunt Rebecca stepped outside, holding a large sealed envelope. The smile on her face had disappeared. "Everyone," she called. "There is something important we need to discuss." Conversations faded as family members gathered around Aunt Rebecca. The sealed envelope in her hands instantly captured everyone's attention. Claire exchanged a nervous glance with Ethan. Whatever this was, it clearly had not been part of the original family reunion plans. Rebecca waited until everyone settled before speaking. "After my hospital stay, I realized something important," she said. "None of us knows how much time we have. That is why I decided it was time to share something I have kept private." A ripple of curiosity moved through the crowd. Rebecca carefully opened the envelope and removed several documents. "Many years ago, your uncle and I established a family trust." The backyard became completely silent. Claire felt her stomach tighten. Family money was never a simple subject. It carried history, expectations, and more than a few old resentments. Rebecca continued. "The trust was intended to help future generations of this family. Education, emergencies, starting businesses, buying homes. It was never about making anyone wealthy. It was about creating stability." Several relatives leaned forward. Others exchanged surprised looks. No one had expected this announcement. "Over the next few months," Rebecca said, "the trust will be restructured. Before that happens, I want every branch of the family represented in the discussions." Claire immediately sensed where this was going. Rebecca smiled warmly toward her and Ethan. "That includes Claire and her brother." Claire nearly stopped breathing. Ethan remained calm, but she could tell he had noticed the same problem. The lie had just become much bigger. What was supposed to last one afternoon was suddenly being tied to family decisions that could continue for months. Questions immediately followed. Cousins wanted details. Uncles wanted numbers. Everyone seemed eager to learn how the trust would work. Rebecca politely refused to discuss specifics until future meetings. Still, the announcement transformed the mood of the gathering. People who had spent the day reminiscing now began discussing plans and possibilities. Claire quietly stepped away toward the edge of the yard. Ethan joined her a moment later. "Please tell me that was not as bad as it sounded," she said. Ethan looked toward the crowd. "I do not think I can tell you that." Claire covered her face. "This was supposed to be one day. I remember. Now there are future meetings." "I noticed that too." Despite the seriousness of the situation, Ethan's calm response almost made her laugh. Almost. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan surprised her. "Your aunt cares about you." Claire looked up. "You think so?" "I know so. I watched her all day." Claire followed his gaze toward Rebecca, who was smiling while talking with relatives. "Maybe," Claire admitted softly. "I just wish I had given her the truth." Ethan did not answer immediately. Sometimes people make mistakes because they are afraid of disappointing the people they love. Claire looked at him. There was something personal in the way he said it, as though he understood that feeling better than he wanted to admit. Before she could ask, Noah and Lily came running across the lawn. "Aunt Rebecca wants a family picture," Lily announced excitedly. Claire froze at the word family. Noah grabbed Ethan's hand, while Lily took Claire's. Together they headed toward the group waiting near the garden. As cameras were positioned and relatives gathered into rows, Claire suddenly noticed Jennifer standing off to the side, staring at her phone. Her expression had changed completely. And whatever she had just discovered, it was not good. The family photo session began with laughter and friendly complaints as relatives tried to squeeze into position. Claire stood beside Ethan while Noah and Lily sat cross-legged in front of them. For a brief moment, everything looked exactly like the kind of family memory people framed and displayed for years. Then Jennifer stepped forward. "Before we take the picture," she said loudly, "I think there is something everyone should know." The conversation around the garden stopped instantly. Claire felt her stomach drop. Ethan turned toward Jennifer, his expression calm but alert. Jennifer held up her phone. "I knew I recognized him." Claire could barely breathe. "Jennifer," she said quietly, hoping to stop whatever was coming next. But it was already too late. "This is Ethan Carter," Jennifer announced. "The Ethan Carter." She turned the screen toward the family. "Chief Executive Officer of Carter Technologies." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Several relatives leaned closer to see the article displayed on her phone. Claire closed her eyes. This was it. The moment she had feared since Ethan first stepped out of that black SUV. Questions immediately erupted from every direction. "You are a CEO? Why did nobody mention that? How successful is this company?" Ethan remained composed, but Claire could see the situation changing rapidly. The family was no longer looking at him as Claire's brother. They were looking at him as someone important. Someone whose presence suddenly seemed suspicious. Jennifer folded her arms. "Funny thing is, I could not find a single connection between Ethan Carter and Claire Mitchell." The backyard fell silent. Claire felt every eye turned toward her. Rebecca looked confused. "What is she talking about?" Nobody answered. Jennifer took a step closer. "I spent 20 minutes searching public records." Claire wanted the ground to open beneath her feet. "Jennifer, stop," she whispered. But Jennifer continued. "There is no family connection. No shared history. Nothing." The silence became unbearable. Ethan glanced toward Claire. He knew exactly what was happening. This was the moment when everything could still be denied or explained away. Instead, Claire felt something inside her break. She was tired. Tired of lying. Tired of pretending. Tired of carrying a story that had grown larger every year. She took a slow breath. "She is right." The words seemed to echo through the garden. Rebecca stared at her. "Claire." Tears filled Claire's eyes. "Ethan is not my brother." Gasps spread through the crowd. Noah and Lily looked up in confusion. Claire forced herself to continue. "I lied years ago. I made up a brother because I was embarrassed. Every time I came to family gatherings, I felt like I never measured up. The lie started small, but it kept growing until I could not stop it." No one spoke. Even Jennifer seemed surprised that Claire had admitted everything so openly. Rebecca looked heartbroken. Not angry. Not disappointed. Just deeply hurt. That expression was worse than anything Claire had imagined. She lowered her head, unable to meet her aunt's eyes. Then someone finally broke the silence. It was Ethan, and the first words out of his mouth shocked everyone, including Claire. "Claire is one of the bravest people I have ever met," Ethan said. The statement caught everyone off guard. Claire slowly looked up. Ethan stood calmly in front of the family, showing none of the discomfort she felt. "Yes, she made a mistake," he continued. "She should have told the truth sooner. But before anyone decides who she is based on that mistake, you should understand why it happened." Nobody interrupted him. Even Jennifer remained silent. Ethan glanced toward Claire before looking back at the group. "Yesterday was the first time I met her. She was sitting outside a hospital, terrified, not for herself, for her family, for her aunt, for the people she loves." Rebecca's expression softened slightly. Ethan continued. "The entire reason she asked for my help was because she wanted this family gathering to be happy. That does not excuse the lie, but it matters." Claire felt tears slipping down her cheeks. Ethan could have walked away the moment Jennifer exposed everything. Instead, he had chosen to stay. "I have spent enough years in business to recognize character," Ethan said. "Character is not revealed when life is easy. It is revealed when people are afraid, embarrassed, or struggling." Claire could have continued lying today. Instead, she told the truth when she knew it might cost her everything. The backyard remained quiet. Several relatives lowered their eyes. Others seemed to be reconsidering the assumptions they had carried about Claire for years. Then Ethan said something that surprised even her. "What concerns me more than the lie is the reason she felt she needed it." A few family members shifted uncomfortably. "Nobody invents an entire person because life is going well," Ethan said. "People do that when they feel unseen, when they feel like they are constantly being compared to others, when they believe they are not enough. Claire could see emotion building in Rebecca's eyes. The older woman looked devastated. Is that how you felt? Rebecca asked quietly. Claire swallowed hard. Sometimes. For how long? Claire hesitated. A long time. Rebecca closed her eyes. Why did you never tell me? Because I thought I would disappoint you. The answer broke something inside the older woman. Rebecca stepped forward. Oh, Claire. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You could never disappoint me by being yourself. The words hit Claire harder than anything else that day. Years of insecurity suddenly felt exposed under the afternoon sunlight. Rebecca reached for her hand. I wish you had trusted me enough to tell me the truth. Claire nodded through her tears. I wish I had too. For several moments, neither woman spoke. Then Rebecca pulled Claire into a hug. A collective breath seemed to release across the entire gathering. The tension that had dominated the afternoon finally began to ease. Nearby, Noah looked confused. So nobody is mad anymore? A few relatives laughed softly. Lily immediately grabbed Noah's hand. I told you everything would be okay. Ethan smiled at the children before looking back at Claire. She wanted to thank him, but no words seemed big enough. Then Rebecca turned toward Ethan. There is something I need to ask you, she said. And I hope your answer is yes. Rebecca looked directly at Ethan. Would you still be willing to help with the family trust discussions? The question surprised everyone. Ethan blinked. After everything that happened today? Rebecca nodded. Especially after everything that happened today. A gentle smile appeared on her face. You may not be related to us by blood, but you are the first person who stood up for Claire when she needed someone. Several relatives quietly agreed. Even Jennifer looked embarrassed by how events had unfolded. Ethan glanced at Claire before answering. I would be honored to help if that is truly what you want. Rebecca squeezed his hand. It is. The remainder of the afternoon felt completely different. The secret was gone. The fear was gone. For the first time in years, Claire did not have to remember details of a story she wished she had never told. She could simply be herself. As the sun began to set, relatives gathered on the porch sharing coffee, desserts, and stories from years past. To Claire's surprise, several family members apologized. They admitted they had sometimes compared her to others without realizing how deeply it affected her. The conversations were uncomfortable at times, but they were honest. And honesty felt far better than pretending. Later that evening, guests slowly began leaving. Cars disappeared down the street one by one until only a handful remained. Noah and Lily sat on the porch steps looking exhausted after a full day of adventure. Do we have to say goodbye? Lily asked. You are acting like we are moving to another planet, Noah replied. The adults laughed. Ethan crouched beside them. Good friendships survive more than one day. Noah brightened immediately. Does that mean we can visit? Ethan looked toward Claire. This time she smiled without hesitation. I think that can be arranged. The children celebrated as though they had just won a championship. Several months passed. Winter arrived and eventually gave way to spring. During that time, Ethan and Claire spoke often. What began as occasional phone calls became regular conversations. Family trust meetings provided plenty of excuses to stay in contact, but neither of them needed excuses anymore. Noah and Lily remained close friends. Rebecca recovered well and became one of the strongest supporters of the growing relationship. Then one warm Saturday afternoon, nearly a year after the hospital parking lot encounter, friends and family gathered once again in Rebecca's backyard. This gathering felt very different from the previous one. White flowers decorated the garden. Music drifted through the air. Children ran across the grass laughing. Rebecca sat in the front row with tears already forming in her eyes. Ethan stood beneath an archway waiting. Claire walked toward him holding Lily's hand. Noah stood proudly nearby. The journey that had begun with fear, loneliness, and a foolish lie had somehow led them here. Not because anyone planned it. Not because life was perfect. But because one stranger chose kindness when it would have been easier to walk away. As Ethan took Claire's hand, she remembered that cold evening outside the hospital. She remembered believing she was completely alone. Looking around now, she realized how wrong she had been. Family, she finally understood, was not always the people you were born with. Sometimes it was the people who chose to stay. And this time, nobody was pretending.